Interviewing is my jam, to be honest. It's what I have done for 20 years of my career, so I love it. And I think I have a good grasp on it, so I will share as much as I can. Please ask questions if anything comes up. So, purpose of an interview, it gives you the chance to sell yourself, but it also gives the employer to check you out, but you're also checking them out to make sure that's somewhere where you want to work. So you need to be prepared to ask questions and being able to promote yourself for sure. So there are numerous types of interviews. So there's the traditional one-on-one interview. So this can be formal or informal. So informal, maybe at a coffee shop, formal, sitting in an office with the boss across at the other side of the desk. Virtual is very common now to have virtual interviews due to COVID. So we have a whole workshop on that. But, you have to be aware that people are watching, what you're doing at a virtual interview. A panel interview. Hopefully you are not at a stage in your life right now where you are having a panel interview. Panel interviews are very intimidating. They're very scary. Because usually there's like 3 people on one side of the desk, like bosses, and then you're sitting on the other side of the desk and you're scared. And that's very real. And usually it's all pre-planned, that people know their questions and, that who's going to ask what, and this one's going to be bad cop and this one's good cop. So panel interviews can be very intimidating. Again, hopefully those are a few years away for you. Group interviews. Group interviews are my favorite. I have a part-time job where I work at, I used to work for the Oilers and I worked for the Expo Center now, still part-time. So I help hiring for K-Days. So when we're hiring for K-Days, we hire 100 people at the same time. We're looking for 100, at least 100 plus people. So a group interview, we would have 5 to 10 people in a room, and I would ask you different questions. I'm not looking necessarily for a specific answer to the question. For K-Days in particular, I'm looking for you to see if you can interact with me. How are your interaction skills? Do you have the customer service skills that I'm looking for? Because at K-Days, you need to talk to people, right? So those are types of questions I'm going to ask. Oh, if a customer comes and asks you, where's the Ferris wheel? What would you say? And there's no right or wrong answer necessarily, but if you're too scared to answer the question in the interview, you might be too scared to answer the person at K-Days, so you might not get the job. So that is what we're looking for in a group interview, just that interaction, if you ever have that. And telephone interviews, those are usually our pre-screen that we're calling. We've got your resume that you sent in, and we're asking you some specific questions from your resume. So that could be, do you drive? Do you have something specific? What's your, experience? But usually we would have 4 or 5 questions to ask, and then we would probably book a one-on-one interview with you. So before an interview, what do you need to do? You got the call, you're ready to go. You need to prepare. You need to prepare for that interview. You were told a few minutes ago how to dress, but a big thing is you need to research the company that you're going to interview with. So you need to be able to, the first question they're going to ask you in your interview is, what do you know about us? And if you say, I think you sell widgets, right? You need to find one thing. You don't need to memorize their whole website, but if you can find one thing on their website that you can remember and say, oh, hey, McDonald's, for example. The first McDonald's opened in 1953 in Illinois. I don't know if that's true. I'm just making that up. But maybe that's the case. They'd be very impressed. So you just need to find one thing about that company from their website, doing that research that you're prepared for that question. Knowing a little bit about the position, so make sure you've read the job description well. Know how your skills match that job description, what they're looking for, and practice. Practice, practice, practice. So, as I'm driving down, I come from Fort Saskatchewan, so as I'm driving here today, knowing I have to stand up here and talk, I practice. And people think I'm nuts because I am driving down the highway and I'm waving my hands and I'm talking, but you need to practice your answers. So you need to say them out loud. You need to have a family member or a friend ask you those questions and you say them out loud. So you think, no, I didn't like how that sounded. I'm going to try it this way. So stand in a mirror, practice those questions, which we will give you. Researching the company, again, you're going to go to the website, perform an internet search for their, any social media pages they may have. Speak to past or present employees that they'll tell you what the job is about. They'll give you information. You could go to the library, get information, and just ask others in the community what they know. What do you know about, this company? And they will, people always like to share. And go there and see for yourself. So years ago, when I was getting the job that I do have now, I went into that employer in jeans and a t-shirt and a ball cap, and I sat in their area, in their organization, and I just watched. I just checked them out. And it was a place where that was okay. It wasn't creepy, but I could just sit and observe. So if it's a place, again, McDonald's, for example, that you can just go watch and just watch what the workers are actually doing, then you can kind of think, oh yeah, I could do this, right? And that's what I did. I watched and I thought, yeah, I think I could work here. And so I applied and I got the job. And now I'm the manager. That was not the plan, but it, sometimes works out that way. How can you find out more about the position? So I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but there is a website called ALIS, A-L-I-S. So you can go to that website and it gives you occupational profiles. So if you wanted to be a welder or a blacksmith or whatever that may look like, you can look up that profile and it'll tell you what the job entails. Is it in demand in Alberta right now? Are there current job listings for it? So it's a really cool website to play in, to check those things out. So one thing you can do as well, we're going to get into talking about the types of questions, but ask questions, ask your friends, ask your family, what are things I'm good at? Again, you're preparing for an interview, you're going to get the question, what are your positives? What are the good things? Sometimes it's hard to think of those things yourself, what my strengths are. So ask other people. And they'll tell you, your teachers will tell you what you're good at. It's definitely good to talk to other people. So types of interview questions. Behavioral questions are hard as well, and they put you on the spot. So a behavioral question is, tell me about a time when. Tell me about a time when you had a difficult situation and how did you deal with it. Tell me about a time when you had a deadline and, how did you meet that deadline? It has to be examples. So you don't know what type of question like this they're going to ask. So sometimes it's good ahead of time. If you're going in for a customer service type position, it's good to prepare because they're going to say, tell me about a time when you had a difficult customer and how did you deal with it? Maybe you don't have a lot of experience yet. So it's okay to think about stuff at school, right? Maybe you had a conflict at school and how did you deal with that situation, or a deadline with essays, or something like that. You can use school as an example as well. And really try and share positive experiences. You don't want to share something that ended badly. So you want to share something that you figured things out. There are also on YouTube, you can look on YouTube, and there, if you search SAR or STAR method, it'll give you actual examples of behavioral questions and how to answer them. Okay, hypothetical questions. If you were faced with this, how would you handle, right? So hypothetical questions, these would be in your group interview. When I used to work for the Oilers, my question was, if you were at a Calgary-Edmonton hockey game and there was a fight, that the not on the ice, in the stands, there was a fight, what would you do? And I don't know what the policies are. I don't know what to do. But I said, well, I would maybe try and break it up. Maybe I'd run and get security. Maybe I would, but again, you're thinking on your feet and you're trying to come up with answers. So hypothetical questions are things that actually happen at that workplace. So sometimes that gives you an idea too, is like, maybe I don't want to work here if that's the different things that happen, right? But it's a good, those are good questions. Open-ended questions. Tell me about yourself. It's the worst question, because you don't know what they want. Try to stay away from talking too much about your personal life and your drama. That you don't want to, I have 3 dogs and a cat, and I have to run home every day for more, and you just want to talk about your professional, kind of what's on your resume. So you want to talk about, I'm in grade 11 and this is the work that I want to get into, and maybe a little bit about your experience. It's none of the employer's business what your personal life is. So you don't have to get into that too much. It says here there's no right or wrong answers. There could be wrong answers, to be honest. And try not to talk too much or too little. So closed questions. Can you work nights? I'm 16 years old, probably not. You don't want to answer these questions with just a no. Answer it with a question back. Oh, in the job description it didn't say there was nights. Tell me about that. Because what if it's just one night a month? What if by nights they mean from 6 p.m. till 11? Could you do that? Maybe, right? And by saying no right off, you've just discounted yourself and you might not get the job. So answer with a question and ask about it, right? And maybe it's once a month. Oh, I can make that work, right? It's not every day. So your common interview questions, again, tell me about yourself. That is probably your number one. You don't want to go on and on about yourself too much. What do you know about our organization, which we talked about? What are your strengths? For the rest of your life, you will get the question, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So you need to prepare ahead of time. What are you good at? What qualities do you have that are going to match with the job? Now, maybe you can draw. If you are applying to, and I keep picking on McDonald's, but if you were applying to McDonald's and they say, what are your strengths? Well, I can draw. I can draw really well. Does that matter? Right? So you probably want to pick things out of that job description that are, I have good customer service skills, I'm really positive, different words like that. Weaknesses. At this point in your life, your weakness probably for the next couple of years can be, I don't have a lot of experience. If you don't have a lot of job experience, that's your weakness. But you want to spin it to be a positive, where then you're going to say, well, I don't have a lot of experience, but that's why I'm here, right? So if I get this job, I'm going to get more experience for the future. So that can be really good answer for weaknesses. You will get, why are you the best person for the job? You've got to learn to toot your own horn. You've got to learn how to be positive about yourself and say, because I'm fabulous, because I'm great, right? Because you are. Another one would be, how would coworkers or other employees describe you? Again, you might not have a lot of experience, but it could be, how would your teacher, or your classmates describe you? And again, here's a behavioral question. Describe a situation you've encountered with a difficult customer or something like that. Those are your behavioral. So questions you do not have to answer. So not all employers know this, they should, but from Alberta labor laws, you do not have to answer any questions about your race, your religion, your family situation, if you have disabilities or anything about your health, age, because you're under 18, that you will disclose your age, if you've been arrested, bankruptcy, or members of different organizations. So most employers know that they can't ask questions like this, but as an employer, there are different questions that I'm going to ask, maybe to get some of these answers. So, for example, I can't ask a lady if they have kids, but I can say, so can you work overtime? And they're going to answer, and they're going to say, oh, no, because I have to pick up my kids at daycare by 5 o'clock. And I'm like, okay. And just depending on what the position is, we're asking different questions to pull as much information from you as you can. So it might not have anything to do with anything, but I can't ask these specific questions. So the actual interview, show up 10 to 15 minutes early, not too much longer, and you don't want to fly in and with 1 minute to spare. So give yourself, so you're calm, you have a time to relax a little bit before it starts. Make sure you know where you're going. Ask the questions, get directions, where you're coming. Go to the interview by yourself. So you might have a parent that drives you. You do not bring them into the interview with you. We don't want to interview your mom. We want to interview you. So go in by yourself. Be polite to everyone, because when I do interviews, the minute you leave, I go to my receptionist and say, what did you think of that one? And they tell me, oh, they were rude, they weren't nice, so definitely be nice to everyone when you're going in for an interview. Be positive and enthusiastic. Remember, some of us talk quite loudly, some a little bit, so try and have a moderate voice. And think before you speak. It's okay to pause. If someone asks you a question and you're not sure, we all blank. I blanked. And this is what I do for a living. And I have been in an interview and they've asked me a question and I'm like, I got nothing. So it's okay to pause and think about it and just say, oh, can you give me a minute? Or you can say, you know what, can we move on? Because I'm drawing a blank right now. Can we come back to that? It's okay to, again, think about what you're going to say beforehand. If you're not sure what the question means, maybe you're not sure, you didn't understand, or the person interviewing you has an accent and you didn't get it, ask for clarification, ask the questions. Ask questions, and always have questions prepared for the end of your interview. So again, you reviewed the website beforehand. Pick one thing that you want to know more about. Pick one or two, that you have one question. Your question can be, and you can have a list. It's okay to bring a little notebook with you, and you can write a few questions down, and maybe they got covered through the interview, but at the end, and they say, do you have any questions for me? You can pull out your little notebook and say, when are you going to, perfect question is, when are you going to let me know? It is the worst. You go for an interview on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday go by, then the weekend, and you haven't heard back, right? Ask, when are you going to hear back? So then if you don't hear back by Friday, that you didn't get the job, right? If they tell you that. But have a few questions that you're ready to ask. Bring extra copies of your resume with you. Bring your references with you. Salary. It's a hard thing to talk about sometimes. So a lot of these jobs, again, McDonald's, for example, you're probably going to start at $15 an hour. But again, as you gain more experience, you're worth more. So you're applying for different jobs and they're going to say, what do you want for pay? And you get all tongue-tied because you don't know what to say, because you don't want to say too much, because they're not going to hire you if you say, I want here, but you want more than here. So give a range. Again, like I said, go on to Alice. It'll give you the average wage of those different positions. And you can kind of put yourself in the middle there and say, well, I'd like to get about $16 to $18 an hour. And hopefully they give you 17. And relax and be yourself. Smile a lot. I know we get nervous, but the jobs you're applying for, and there's no disrespect to anyone here, but you can learn. There's no job here that you couldn't learn. So go in confident. You can learn how to, I'm not even sure some of the jobs are, but you can learn to do any of those things. So don't be afraid to go in for an interview and be confident in that you have that ability to learn. So body language, when you're in an interview, now with COVID, maybe not as much handshakes going on, but if you do shake hands, it's a firm handshake, no floppy fish handshakes, that's not good. Sit up straight in the interview. You lean in, show your interest, right? Lean into the person. Try not to fidget. A lot of us fidget. We get nervous and we get the knee thing going. I have been in an interview or interviewing someone and the pen is vibrating across the table. Try not to fidget. Try and control that. Make eye contact. You do not have to stare the person down, but to be able to look at them every once in a while is good. Appropriate facial expressions. If you don't like what I'm saying, try and keep your face normal. As we talked about the confidence, be confident in yourself. Again, smile for sure. So after the interview, when you're leaving the interview, try and get a business card, get the information of the person who interviewed you. Because, again, you want to ask, when is a final decision going to be made? But if you don't hear in a couple of days, you want to follow up. You want to phone and say, how did I do? Did I get the job? Which can be a bit nerve-wracking because they might tell you no, but that's okay. Then you go to the next one. It's all just learning. You want to get a business card because what you're going to do is you want to send a thank you note. You walk out of the interview, you go home, and you want to send just a quick email saying, hey Joe, it was great to meet you. I really enjoyed meeting you, and I'm really interested in the job. Look forward to hearing from you. That's simple. I've been sitting in my office and I just finished interviews and I'm deciding, do I want this person or do I want that person? And my computer bings and it's someone saying thank you. They just got the job over the person who didn't say thank you. So it takes 2 seconds for you to send a quick note thanking. And this is time too, where you've got their email address. We've all walked out of an interview where you are in your car or on the bus and you think, I should have said this to that question. I should have answered my question this way. You can send it in an email. You can say, you know what? I was thinking about that question that I got stumped on. This is my answer, right? I would appreciate that. I would, be quite happy with you reaching out that way. As well, when you do get their business card as well and you're doing that follow-up, if they tell you you didn't get the job, ask what you could have done better. Ask for feedback. Some people will tell you, some may not, but it's okay to ask. And if they say, you didn't answer this question or that question, then for next time. Any little feedback that you get is going to be super positive. So try not to make the following mistakes. Do not say, I don't know. If you gotta make something up or, you'd never want to say, I don't know to a question. You can do the pause and say, I'm not sure. Let me think about that for a second. Let me think about that, or can we move on? But that just, I don't know, that's not going to go over too well. Try not to under answer your questions. You need to try and think of specific examples. So if you say, strengths are that I'm organized, how are you organized, right? Tell me how. That not just, I'm organized, or I'm really reliable. How are you reliable? Okay. I haven't missed any sick time through school for 3 years. Okay, that's telling me that you show up every day. Okay, so try and think of some examples. Try not to air out your dirty laundry, or again, your personal life. Try not to speak negatively about former employers, because then I'm just thinking, is that how you're going to talk about me? Right? So try not to think about or talk about negative. Being too bragging, talking too much about that. Seeming lazy. Okay, and this is my worst. As you would probably have been listening to me, I a lot. And I try to stop. I do. But I will probably again in the next 30 seconds. Want to do it right now. When I am thinking of the next thing I'm going to say. I've ummed for 30 years of my life. I will probably continue to But the one I really hate is the So if I ask you a question and you're like, no, I don't know, because that's why I'm asking the question. I will try not to. But the little slangs or things like that, try and keep it professional when you're talking. Try not to seem too desperate for the job. Be clean. I wasn't paying attention to we were talking about the dress, to dress nicely. Do not, if you smoke, have a mint before you go in. Be clean, you shower, you check to make sure you have no stains on your clothes going in. You don't want to be, too much makeup or, that type of thing. Turn off your phone. When you're going into an interview, unless you are expecting the call of all calls, you want to put your phone on vibrate. You want to turn it off. If you are expecting a call, then tell the interviewer, say, you know what, I'm just going to have my phone sitting out. Is it if I might have to answer my mom, my grandma, whatever. But don't just dive into your purse and pull it out and, hey, I'm in an interview. You just lost the job. Okay, that's not going to get you the job. Chewing gum, spit it out before you go in. The dreaded rejection call. It has happened to everyone. It has happened to all of us numerous times, over and over and over. My thought on it, for myself, I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't have had those rejection calls. I learned from each one to do something different in the interview. I learned more about myself, but they happen to everyone. Again, ask for that feedback if you get the chance, and take it as a positive learning. As you interview more and more and more over the years, you become really good at it. You become a professional interviewer, and it's good. It's good to practice. And be polite and positive. So if you get that call and says, hey, you didn't get the job, be nice. Because maybe you're number 2, maybe you're the second choice, and then number 1, something happens, it doesn't work out. They may call you back and say, hey, are you interested now? But if you ended it badly and say, yeah, you're a jerk, and you hung up the phone, they're not going to call you back, right? So be nice, say thank you for letting me know. I'm still very interested if anything changes. You never know what that could look like. Okay, and that's it. That ended very abruptly. I feel like there should be more. So thank you for listening. We'll take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about resumes a little bit. So do stick around.